how Joe Rogan makes his money and became the world's highest paid podcaster. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, reporting from the HQs of Goose Goose Panda. Straight to the matter. FCRMC. Joseph James Rogan, born August 11, 1967, is an American comedian, podcast host, and mixed martial arts color commentator. He has also worked as a television host and an actor. Rogan began his career in comedy in August 1988 in the Boston area. After relocating to Los Angeles in 1994, he signed an exclusive developmental deal with Disney, and appeared as an actor on several television shows including Hardball and News Radio. In 1997, he started working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, as an interviewer and color commentator. Rogan released his first comedy special in 2000. In 2001, he put his comedy career on hold after becoming the host of Fear Factor, and resumed his stand-up career shortly after the show's end in 2006. In 2009, Rogan launched his podcast The Joe Rogan Experience, which led him to fame, wealth and podcast superstardom. Joseph James Rogan was born on August 11, 1967, in Newark, New Jersey. His grandfather had moved his family there in the 1940s. He is of 3/4 Italian and 1/4 Irish descent. His father, Joseph, is a former police officer in Newark. Rogan's parents divorced when he was 5, and he has not been in contact with his father since he was 7. Rogan recalled, "All I remember of my dad are these brief, violent flashes of domestic violence, but I don't want to complain about my childhood. Nothing bad ever really happened to me. I don't hate the guy." From ages 7 to 11, the family lived in San Francisco, California, followed by a move to Gainesville, Florida when he was 11. They settled outside Boston in Newton Upper Falls, Massachusetts, where Rogan attended Newton South High School, from which he graduated in 1985. Rogan participated in Little League Baseball, but developed an interest in martial arts in his early teens. He recalled being terrified of being a loser as a child, 14, and martial arts gave me not just confidence, but also a different perspective of myself and what I was capable of. I knew that I could do something I was terrified of and that was really difficult, and that I could excel at it. It was a big deal for me. Martial arts were the first thing that ever gave me hope that I wasn't going to be a loser. So I really gravitated toward it. At 14, Rogan took up karate and a year later, started taekwondo. At 19, he won the U.S. Open Championship Taekwondo tournament as a lightweight. He was a Massachusetts full-contact state champion for 4 consecutive years and became a taekwondo instructor. Rogan also practiced amateur kickboxing and held a 2-1 record. He retired from competition at age 21 as he began to suffer from frequent headaches and feared he might sustain worse injuries. He attended University of Massachusetts Boston, but found it pointless and dropped out early. He lived in the Boston area until he was 24, and then moved to New York City. The Joe Rogan Experience is downloaded nearly 200 million times per month and made $30 million last year, making the comedian and UFC commentator the highest paid podcaster of 2019, per Forbes. The 52-year-old podcaster's guests have included Tesla CEO Elon Musk, Senator Bernie Sanders, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, actor Robert Downey, Jr., and right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. Joe Rogan net worth. Joe Rogan is an American comedian, actor, martial arts expert and UFC commentator who has a net worth of $100 million. Joe first became known as a cast member on the comedy series News Radio. He then went on to host the reality show Fear Factor, Comedy Central's The Man Show. Today Joe operates one of the most successful and powerful podcasts in the world and serves as the commentator of the UFC. Salary highlights. It has been speculated that Joe earns $30 million per year from his podcast between sponsor reads and YouTube revenue. In 2017, we estimated that he conservatively earns $5 million per year off the podcast. It should also be noted that the podcast is just one of many sources of income for Joe. He still performs sold-out stand-up shows around the country and is the official commentator for UFC. He also earned millions as the host of the television series Fear Factor between 2001 and 2006. The Spotify deal. On May 19, 2020, it was announced that Joe had signed a multi-year licensing deal with Spotify. The deal will make Spotify the exclusive home of Rogan's audio and video feeds. It will also remove all of Joe's archived episodes from YouTube and iTunes. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. It was not an acquisition. For comparison, about a month earlier, Spotify bought Bill Simmons' podcast network, which is significantly smaller than Rogan's, for $190 million upfront, plus $50 million per year in ongoing content costs. He is said to retain ownership and full editorial control of the show, which will be available on Spotify and become exclusive to the platform. The video version of the podcast, which currently streams on YouTube, will only be available in full on Spotify, as well. Let's presume Joe was indeed making $30 million per year before this deal. And let's say he signed a 3-year deal. One could safely presume his Spotify contract is worth at least $100 million. Perhaps much more. Career. In 1994, Rogan moved to Los Angeles and booked his first national television spot as well as the MTV comedy show Half Hour Comedy Hour, where he was able to showcase the stand-up comedy he had worked on during his time in New York City. That same year, Rogan booked his first major acting role in the 1994 9-episode Fox sitcom Hardball as Frank Valenti, a young, egocentric star player on a professional baseball team. Around this time, Rogan began performing at the Comedy Store in Hollywood and became a paid regular performer by owner Mitzi Shore. He performed at the club for the next 13 years for free and paid for the venue's new sound system. From 1995 to 1999, Rogan starred in the NBC sitcom News Radio as Joe Garley, an electrician and handyman at the show's fictional news radio station. The role was originally set to be played by actor Ray Romano. Romano was let go from the cast after one rehearsal, and Rogan was brought in. Rogan began working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship as a backstage and post-fight interviewer. His first show took place at UFC 12, Judgment Day on February 7, 1997. Rogan became friends with UFC's then new president Dana White, who offered him a job as a color commentator, but Rogan initially declined as he just wanted to go to the fights and drink. In 2002, White was able to hire Rogan for free in exchange for prime event tickets for him and his friends. After about 15 free gigs as commentator, Rogan accepted pay for the job. Rogan won the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Award for Best Television Announcer twice and was named MMA Personality of the Year 4 times by the World MMA Awards. In 2001, he accepted an offer from NBC to host the American edition of Fear Factor. The show increased Rogan's national exposure, which caused turnouts at his stand-up gigs to grow. Fear Factor ran for an initial 6 seasons from 2001 to 2006. In 2011, Rogan resumed his role as Fear Factor host for its 7th and final season, until 2012. Rogan's role as host of Fear Factor led to further television opportunities. In February 2003, Rogan became the new co-host of The Man Show on Comedy Central for its 5th season from August 2003. The show ended in 2004. In 2011, Rogan played his first major character in a movie in Zookeeper. In 2013, Rogan hosted the television show Joe Rogan Questions Everything on the Sci-Fi Network, which aired for 6 episodes. The show covered topics discussed on his podcasts, including the existence of Bigfoot and UFOs. Podcast career. In December 2009, Rogan launched a free podcast with his friend and fellow comedian Brian Redbin. The first episode was recorded on December 24th and was initially a live weekly broadcast on Ustream, with Rogan and Redbone sitting in front of laptops bullshitting. By August 2010, the podcast was named The Joe Rogan Experience and entered the list of top 100 podcasts on iTunes, and in 2011, was picked up by SiriusXM satellite radio. The podcast features an array of guests who discuss current events, political views, philosophy, comedy, hobbies, and numerous other topics. In January 2015, the podcast was downloaded over 11 million times. By October that year, the podcast was downloaded 16 million times each month, making it one of the most popular free podcasts. Personal life: Rogan married Jessica Ditzel, a former cocktail waitress, in 2009. They have 2 daughters. The first was born in 2008 and the second in 2010. Rogan is also a stepfather to Ditzel's daughter from a previous relationship. He personally holds black belts in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Taekwondo, and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. He holds a blue belt in Judo. Joe has used his comedy and podcast to discuss his support of drugs such as cannabis, mushrooms, and DMT. Rogan is a public supporter of the recreational and medical use of those drugs. He was featured in a marijuana documentary titled The Union, the business behind getting high, and reportedly has an isolation tank in his home that is supposed to foster a natural production of DMT. His real estate empire. In October 2019, Joe spent $5 million on a home in Bell Canyon, California and Ventura County. Joe has called Bell Canyon home since 2003, when he spent $2.2 million on a starter house in the same area. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, leave your comments, and hit the like button. Also, follow us on Instagram as tagged on the videos. Have a great day and stay blessed.